Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, we're back at it again with the Entitled Aunt stories, which is a continuation of yesterday's story. So if you missed that one, make sure you check it out first. I will link it now, as well as in the description below. But without further ado, let's see what else Crazy Aunt got up to. Crazy Aunt tries to have me arrested for murder. Victim objects. Edited to add, this all took place around 30 years ago. It's all long buried, along with Crazy Aunt. If you watch television shows from the 70s and 80s, you will notice odd things. People smoking at work, on planes, even in hospitals. Telephones have cords. At a police station, there are no computers on the desks, and everyone is smoking. Things have changed a lot since then. That includes mental health standards and police procedures. Please keep that in mind. Caller ID had not been invented. There were no mass market mobile phones, and the ones that existed were for the filthy rich and had limited use due to technology. It typically took a week to get your photos back, and there were no selfies. Wearing a seatbelt was optional, as were child safety seats. Car windows had to be manually rolled down. It was a different world, and these events happened a long time ago. Several people have asked about the fallout I mentioned in my first post about my entitled Crazy Aunt. If you don't want to read the original story, my crazy aunt steals the car belonging to her daughter and gets arrested for that by destroying her driver's license. To say that hell broke loose the next day is putting it mildly. Even though my cousin Emily had a ticket written by the officer from the night before, stating that she had a valid license and to call it in if necessary, we opted to have me drive to the license branch to get a replacement. It only took a few minutes, and then we were on our way to the museum. We were both a little nervous because my aunt hadn't called or anything, and with her silence was something to be worried about. We left the museum to get some lunch, and my cousin went to the restroom while I waited at the kiosk. As I'm standing there, a police officer approaches me. There are 3 others milling about, looking very out of place in that area. You know, the fake, I'm supposed to be here and need to look fake busy behavior. The officer asks me for identification, and as I go to pull out my license for him, I asked him what was going on and why he needed to see it. Sure, officer, let me get it. What's going on? I have a report that you are an endangered runaway involved in the trafficking of narcotics. I stopped cold and stared at the officer. He was not kidding. I started laughing. He was not amused. I don't suppose the name of the person who gave you that tip is Crazy Aunt? It was anonymous, and regardless, I can't give that information out. I hand him my license. As you can see, I'm over the age of being considered a runaway. I was 21. I'm also not involved with narcotics of any kind, and if you need to discuss this further, you can contact my attorney. Sorry for bothering you, but we had to check. I get that. Maybe I was an endangered runaway, and until you check, you can't possibly know that. Cousin and I get our food and head back to her place. When we arrive there are about 30 messages on her answering machine. For you young people, it was a primitive form of voicemail, and several were from my brother. It seems that my aunt, delusional as ever, called him and told him I had been arrested for drug trafficking and was in really serious trouble. He was a little concerned. I called him back and told him everything. The other messages were from Crazy Aunt to me, demanding that I leave, explaining that I'm not allowed by law to visit that state without her permission or without being with a parent or legal guardian. The world was a strange place in her head, and she was going to have me arrested if I didn't leave. And naturally, she blamed me for her arrest the previous evening. About an hour later, there was a banging on the door. It was the police. Again. We let them in. They had another anonymous tip that it was a drug house and asked if we mind letting them searching it. Of course we minded. We asked if they had a warrant. And suddenly, my crazy aunt appears. Ma'am, you can't be here right now. My daughter lives here. I'm sorry, ma'am. You still have to wait outside. So, you gave them another false tip? No, I told you that you would be arrested, And I was right. If you aren't hiding drugs, then why do you care if there's a warrant? Answer me that. Because privacy is important to us as citizens in a free country. Ma'am, no one is being arrested. We were following up on a tip, and apparently you're the one that made that accusation.
Arrest her. She isn't supposed to be here.
Why not?
Because she doesn't have my permission to be here.
I've told her specifically that she is not allowed to visit my daughter without my permission. Do you own this property?
No,
but my daughter lives here, so it's my home too. No, it's not your home. I invited OP here. Now, please leave us alone.
She doesn't have my permission to even be in this state.
Your permission is not required to visit this state, or even this person. They're both adults. Officers, this woman has now made 2 false complaints against me, harassed me, and threatened me. Is there any chance you can arrest her, lose her paperwork for about 10 days? By then I'll be home.
They can't do that. I have every right to keep you away. Besides, I have to be in court the next week because of you.
Why does she have to be in court?
Because she stole my car and tore up my license yesterday.
That was her? I heard about that at the station this morning. What are my options? I'm sorry, but we can't lose her paperwork. Though, I certainly sympathize with you. You can, however, press charges against her if you would like. It would get her out of your hair until morning, at least. I'll take it. I signed the form, and she was arrested. Again. This time, she posted $1,000 and was released. Because the police clearly don't understand the law and how she is right. She goes back to trying to harass me and control Emily. The problem was that now she couldn't find us. While she was busy being arrested and bonding out, I talked to my mom and her brother and sister-in-law. Mom got us a hotel suite booked under the maiden name of my good aunt. Emily and I packed up and moved to the hotel. 4 days later, there was a knock on the hotel room door. I answer it and find the police standing there. This was different. 2 were in uniform and 2 were in regular clothes. Detectives. Oh boy. I sighed. Told them I'm not a runaway and there are no drugs, but come on in anyway. Do you know why we're here? Not specifically, but if I were to guess, I'd say my crazy aunt has cooked up some new story to sell to you. Do you know where we can find Emily? Yes. Is this a confession? To what? To her murder. What? Your aunt says that you have always hated your cousin, and that 4 days ago, you got her out of the way, and then killed Emily and dumped her body. We would like to know where her remains are to give her family closure. Cooperation would go a long way here. First, crazy aunt is the one that's always hated me. It's a long story. Emily is one of my best friends, as well as my cousin. Second, I not only didn't kill her, she isn't dead. Then where is she? Taking a shower? We just got back from the pool, and chlorine does nasty things to her curls. She'll be out in a minute. One officer had moved to the bathroom door and could hear someone in there. He nodded at the detective. I yelled into the bathroom, "Hurry up! We have company!" Emily squealed, "Mikey!" I knew she'd hurry up now. I returned to my seat. There was another knock on the door. This time, it was Mike. He came in, grabbed a soda, sat down, and looked at the police. "So, what is she claiming you did this time? Murder? Cool. Who would you kill?" "Emily." "Damn. I was going to marry that girl." "You do? And crazy aunt becomes your mother-in-law." "I don't plan on returning from the honeymoon. She'll never find us." "I thought that when we left M's place and decided to stay here. Yet, here we are." "Fair point." Emily comes out of the bathroom and rushes to see Mike. It takes a second for her to notice the police. "Oh, good grief. What is she claiming you did this time? Murder? Wow, she's really pulling out all the stops here. Who'd she say you killed? Kennedy? You. Me? But I'm not dead. May we see some identification?" Emily handed it to him, and we gave them the whole story. The officers just shook their heads. "We will let her know that you are alive and that you will contact her when you see fit. We will not disclose your location to her." "So she gets away with more harassment?" "I'm afraid so. The reality is that we can't prove that there was malicious intent here, even though there was. When neither she or anyone else that knows Emily had seen or heard from her in days, she can make the case that she reasonably concluded that Emily was in danger. You were the last person known to be with her. there. So, you are the logical starting point. Well, thanks for not coming in with guns blazing. We only do that on television. Randomly shooting up hotel rooms creates lots of paperwork, and we hate paperwork. Try and enjoy the rest of your visit here. Oh, I will. She goes to court in a few days for car theft, and I wouldn't miss that for anything. Okay, before anyone claims this as being fake, which, don't get me wrong, it very well could be, like OP stated, keep in mind that this happened 30 years ago. The justice system was loose. Entitled Aunt also made anonymous tips, so it's not like they could look her up and see her charges or prove it was her either, which is why there was next to none fallout. Okay, with that out of the way, Entitled Aunt is crazy? What world does she live in? Clearly, it's some sort of fantasy world where she is the queen, where it's completely okay to do very illegal things. There are not enough great googly mooglies in the world to sum up the shock I have reading about this woman. The fact that the three of them, OP, Emily, and Mike, weren't even fazed by the murder accusation thing just goes to show how insane this woman's antics are. Like I said in the last one, I'm so glad OP, Emily, and the fam moved far away from this very clearly delusional woman. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this Entitled Aunt story. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!